Yan. So for this morning, we will continue with the discussion sa naiwan na mga expressions of concentrations or units of concentration. We are done with the molarity and molality, and then let's move on sa normality. Class, you listen kasi this will be more complicated compared to the two na natapos na natin. I mean, mas marami kasi siyang involved na data at the same time. I think this one is new sa inyo ha, the milli-equivalent weight and the equivalent weight. So again, mas complicated siya. So pag sinabing normality, this is a unit of concentration expressed as gram equivalent weight of solute per liter of solution. So before we can get normality, kailangan makuha muna natin yung gram equivalent na yan. So, ano ni siya? Ang kaning equivalence factor, we will see later. Tudun ako sa inyo how to get that, how to express that siya, how to use that for the unit of concentration or to express the concentration of solution. So you take note that the units that can be used for normality can be capital letter N, pwede siya capital letter N, or since normality is gram equivalent weight per liter of solution, then you can use this one, equivalent per liter. Or the last one, if the solution is just in milliliters, sa volume niya, milliliters lang siya, then we can express normality as milli-equivalent per ml. Okay? So before ta mag-compute og normality, let's talk about first, gram equivalent weight at the same time milli-equivalent weight. So dun sa ta mag-focus before ta mag-move on yun sa ato ang normality. So I'll give you the formula. Equivalent weight is equal to the molecular weight divided by the F. Ay, ano naman to? Wait lang ha. Tell me if you cannot follow ha, kay medyo complicated. Again, this is our formula. Equivalent weight is equal to molecular weight divided by BF. So again, MW is molecular weight or the molar mass. So wala paghihapon ta na human sa ato ang molar mass now, meaning you need your periodic table and then divided by F. F is your equivalence factor. So later na lang isahon nako ang pag-identify sa equivalence factor. I'll give you the milli-equivalent weight. Kasi you can either use the equivalent weight or the milli-equivalent weight in computing the normality. So eto naman, milli-equivalent weight is equal to the MW divided by F times 1,000. So that is their difference. Merong times 1,000 sa baba, si milli-equivalent weight. Now, ayan, sige. Now, if you ask me, when are we going to use the equivalent weight and the milli-equivalent weight? It is dependent to the volume. So if the volume is expressed in liters, like this one, you have to use the equivalent weight. So, dili na nimo siya i-times sa 1,000. But if the volume given is in ml, then we will compute for the milli-equivalent weight. Yan. Nasundan? Questions? Ano pa lang ni siya? Formula pa lang. Wala pa ni siya computation. Sige. Now, how do we identify the F? So, ang F, depende siya. You have to identify first if the compound given is an acid, a base, or a salt. Okay? Pag dili siya mag-fit in sa acid o sa base class, automatic na siya sa salt. Now, the F class for the acid is the number of replaceable hydrogen. Meaning, bilangon lang nato, pila ka buok ang replaceable hydrogen sa iyahang formula, then that will be the F of the acid. So for example, I'll give you an example. You have hydrochloric acid. Again, this is hydrochloric acid. So definitely this one is an acid, no? You just count kung pila ka buk iyahang hydrogen, then mauna siya iyahang F. So for example, hydrochloric acid na siya isa ka hydrogen, then automatic, the factor there, the equivalence factor is 1. Okay? And then, another example, you have your sulfuric acid, H2SO4. Again, sulfuric acid, we have H2SO4. So as you can see here, sulfuric acid has 2 hydrogens. So, ang F niya, syempre kay 2. Okay? That's how you identify the factor for an acid. It's the same with phosphoric acid. This one is phosphoric acid. So, F automatic is 3 kay naaman siya 3 ka hydrogen. So it's not that complicated when it comes to acid. Now, okay na ta sa acid. Let's move on sa ato ang base. Let's admit those na medyo na late. Yan. Now, for the base naman class, it's the number of replaceable hydroxide. Again, it's the number of replaceable hydroxide. Let me give you an example. Okay, mostly sa atong mga inorganic bases na sila'y OH in their formula. So just like sodium hydroxide. Ayan, sodium hydroxide, this is a basic substance. So as you can see na siya OH. You just count how many OH ang present. So just like this one, isa kabuk na OH. So the F here, the equivalence factor here is 1. So unlike calcium hydroxide is like this class. Okay? So mana siya ang formula ni calcium hydroxide. So as you can see na ay subscript na 2, which means you have 2 hydroxide present in calcium hydroxide, which makes its equivalence factor as 2. Okay? Tingnan lang siya ang pagbilang. Same goes with aluminum hydroxide. Na siya 3 na subscript, which means 3 po iyahang F. I mean 3 iyahang equivalence factor. Okay? Questions class sa acids sa bases before ta mag-move on sa salt. Kasi sa salt, this is a bit more complicated, especially if you don't know the arrangement of the elements in the periodic table. Wala? Okay lang ta sa acid ug sa bases? Masundan? Tulog naman diha. Wait. What happened? Sige, wait lang ha. Malisdan ko pag limited ako ang screen. Yes. So hatagan ta mo. Another example is, wait, unsa kung wala na hatag. This one. HNO3. How do we read this? HNO3 is your nitric acid. So definitely acid ni siya. And then you just count. If you're asked what is the equivalence factor, automatic class na siya isa ka H. So automatic, ang iyahang equivalence factor is 1. Okay? And then, another one, we have barium hydroxide. So since naa siya OH, you just count. Okay lang, Krisha. You just count the number of OH. That's the subscript. So F is equal to 2. I hope that's clear for both acids and bases. Now, Let's have the salt. Ang salt kasi, you cannot see hydrogen at the same time, you cannot see, ano there, dili ni mo makitaan ang OH sa salt. So how will you know now, wait lang. How will you know now the F for the salt? It is actually the total positive. Again, total positive, and take note of the word or. Dili na siya end ha, kay ang end i-add na to tanan. Pero pag ingon og or, it can be the total positive or the total negative charges sa salt. Okay? Gi-emphasize na ako ng or ha, kasi you can use either the positive or the negative. So let me give you an example of a salt. We have sodium chloride. If you write the chemical formula of sodium chloride, it's NaCl. So it's nowhere an acid or a base. You cannot see hydrogen, you cannot even see OH sa structure or sa formula niya. So automatic, this one is a salt. Now, to identify the factor for a salt, you need to look at the charges. So last time class, di ba, gitudloan ta mo sa Chem 101 on how to identify the charges of our elements. It can be identified using your periodic table. So if ato ang i-drawing ulit ato ang periodic table. Okay, so again, how your periodic table looks like this. I believe you have your own periodic table there. So you have your hydrogen, you have beryllium here, and then you have the transition metals at the center. Paano naka transition metals? And then you have boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, and then helium here. Now, ingon ko diba sa inyo ha, if an element belongs to group 1, this one is the group 1 here from hydrogen, lithium, sodium, potassium pababa. Group 1A na sila, silang tanan class ilahang charge kay positive 1. Again, silang tanan from hydrogen pababa ilahang charge positive 1. Now, sa group 2 naman, beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium pababa, silang tanan ilahang charge kay positive 2. So I hope nasundan. And then for boron pababa, boron, aluminum, and so on, we have positive 3 here. And then sa inorganic chemistry, we don't dwell with carbon. We don't deal with carbon, I mean, because carbon can either be positive 4 or negative 4. The same goes with the elements sa iyahang na ka-member niya or ka-grupo niya pababa. Okay? So, when I give examples later, I will not give carbons and mga group mates niya. Kasi carbon behaves differently from all other elements. And then from nitrogen class, look at the elements under nitrogen. Silang tanan, we have negative 3. Okay? Para masayon ato ang life as students sa chemistry, you just identify their charges using the arrangement in the periodic table. And then for oxygen, that's negative 2. Tanan na ha, pati group mates ni oxygen. And we have the last one, the halogens. We call them halogens. Fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, and astatine. They are negative 1. So silang tanan class, negative 1 ha, fluorine pababa. And then remember the noble gases. They are called noble gases because they don't react with other elements. They have completed the octet rule. They don't need other elements to become stable. So definitely, wala sila'y charge. Okay? So let's go back to our example, the sodium chloride. So to identify the factor for sodium chloride, you first identify the charges. So take note, we have the sodium here. So asa makita sa periodic table ang ato ang sodium. So, wala man na ako gikumpleto ako ang periodic table on the screen. So asa siya makita? Sodium is naa sa group 1, di ba? It's hydrogen, lithium, and then the third element sa group 1 is sodium. So automatic class, ang charge nato for sodium is positive 1. And then for chlorine, where can we see chlorine? Sorry. Chlorine is somewhere here under the fluorine. So look at your periodic table. Diba, you can see the fluorine. Under that, you have chlorine. So, kung under siya kay fluorine, then ang charge ni chlorine is negative 1. Now, the question is, what is the factor for this? The factor for sodium chloride class is 1. Again, it's 1. Ganun 1 man. According sa atong rule, for the salt, the factor is the total positive or negative na charge. Take note of the word or. You don't add the 2. Instead, you just need the number. You don't need the sign. You just need the number here kung pila na siya. Parihas man sila 1. So automatic, the factor for sodium chloride is 1. Questions nakuha or I'll give you another example. Another example ta. Kasi the sodium chloride is the most common one. Let's have a bit higher pa, complicated one. Sige, let's have another one. Ano siya kung ginaingon na medyo complicated si normality kay daghan siya involved na data. So let's have magnesium oxide. Ayan, magnesium oxide class. If you write the chemical formula for magnesium oxide, it's MgO. Again, it's MgO. So, looking at the formula, you can conclude that this one is a salt. Wala siya'y hydrogen, wala siya'y OH, so automatic salt siya. So definitely, you have to identify the charge. Are there charges for you to also identify the factor? So, look at your periodic table. Where can we see magnesium? Okay, sa group 2A, which means ang charge ni magnesium kay positive 2. Again, ang charge ni magnesium kay positive 2. Now, how about si oxygen? So, si oxygen class is this one. So, ang charge ni oxygen kay negative 2. So, again ha, dili na siya i-add. You just look at the number, either the positive or the negative charges. However, class, take note nga sa isa ka compound, actually, pantay na ang iyahang charge. Kung positive 1, kung 1 ang positive, then 1 po na ang negative. So, pantay lang na sila. Now, sa F, what is the F now? Kung parehas na 2, then definitely, the factor here is 2. Okay? Again, do not look at the signs. You just need the value. You just need the number here. The factor again is 2 for magnesium oxide. Okay? Another one. Let's have another one. Okay, let's have aluminum. No, dili ni mao atong i-quiz unya. Atong i-quiz unya kay molarity o molality katong akong lesson last week. Okay? Tapos ang sa lab kay katong activity number 4. Okay? Let's have aluminum oxide first. Aluminum oxide. So pag ihatag na ko ang chemical formula ni aluminum oxide, it's Al2O3. Again, Al2O3. This is the chemical formula of aluminum oxide. Now let's identify the charges so that ma-identify po nato ang equivalence factor. So asa na belong si aluminum? Sa group 3. Aluminum can be found sa group 3A under boron. So this one class is positive 3. Now this is how you get, kasi take note of the word total. Okay lang man gud tong sodium chloride o magnesium oxide kay wala man to siya, wala to sila subscript. Pero class, pag naan na siya subscript, you really have to get the total. So, unsa kung ginaminan ng total? Yan. I-times nimo na siya. Anong i-times nimo? Kay sa aluminum oxide class, naa kay duha ka aluminum. Kay naa ka subscript na 2 dire. So, meaning ana, duha imong aluminum, which means duha po na siya ka positive 3. Therefore, ang total positive charge sa aluminum oxide kay positive 6. Total, 2 times positive 3, it's positive 6. Now, pag abot pod kay oxygen, diba remember that oxygen is negative 2. But you have 3 oxygens here. Nakakay 3 ka oxygen for aluminum oxide. So you have to get the total. I mean, 3 man na siya kabuok, unya negative 2 ang ilahang charge each. So i-times na lang nato, 3 times negative 2. The total negative charges for aluminum oxide is 6. Okay? So ang pangutana karon, what is the factor? The factor here, class, is 6. Okay? 6 class ang factor ani. Kasi total man ang ato ang gusto for the salt. Okay? Total, it's not 3, it's not 2, it should be 6. Ha? Either the positive or the negative, basta ang total. That's how you get the factor for salts na more than 1 atom ang present. Okay? Questions? Wala? So, ang ato ang salt class, dili nang na siya limited for the elements, no? Mga binary na mga compounds. Pwede po na siya sa mga tertiary compounds. When I say tertiary compounds, katong na ay polyatomic ions. So, just like sodium bicarbonate. So, pwede po na siya, applicable po ni siya para sa salt. So, though na present sa hydrogen din ha, class, but sodium bicarb is not an acid. Kasi this one is one polyatomic ion. Dili siya, wala siya nag-exist as pure hydrogen lang dyan. Naka-ano siya, naka-polyatomic ion siya na bicarbonate. So, how will you get the factor if this is the example na compound? It's the same thing. Isa-isa ho nato. Sodium is positive 1. And remember that bicarbonate is one entity. You can also look at your periodic table for this. Kasi na ay mga periodic table class na sa ilalom or sa likod na ay list of ions. So makita ninyo sa ilalom either cations or anions. Or if you still have a copy of the index card na akong ipabuhat sa inyo sa Chem 101, then you can also look at that. Makita ninyo dito ang mga polyatomic ions and you can see their bicarbonate ion or usahay ginatawag niya siya hydrogen carbonate. So you can see there na ang iyahang charge kay negative 1. Okay, so pareha sila ni sodium. So definitely the factor here is 1. Okay, so applicable po din si polyatomic ion. Questions?
That's it.
Yes, George?
Yes, ma'am. Yes na ma'am.
Ansa?
Yes na po, ma'am.
Okay. Sige. So mag-move on na ta. Mag-move on ta, class. So okay naman atong factors. Let's try, before to mag-compute jud og normality, let's try computing the equivalent weight and the milli-equivalent weight. Okay? Okay. So for example, you are asked to compute for the equivalent and the milli-equivalent weight of sodium chloride. Again, equivalent and milli-equivalent weight of sodium chloride. So remember, the equivalent weight is equal to the molecular weight divided by the F. So you need to compute first the molar mass or the molecular weight of sodium chloride before ta makakompute sa equivalent weight. So sodium chloride, class, remember how do you compute the molar mass or the molecular weight? You have to list down all the elements, identify the number of atoms, isa-isa lang sila, and i-multiply sa ilahang atomic weights. So always remember na sa atuang solving, you have to round off the atomic weights to the nearest whole number. So pag whole number na, sodium will be 23. So this is equal to 23. And chloride is 35. So again, this is equal to 35. So i-add na to. The molecular weight now is 58 grams per mole. So that is correct, 58 grams per mole. Now, how about the F? Na-mention man na, ay na, himo man natin ng example kagainan na ang atoang sodium chloride. For the factor, again, you need to identify the charge because sodium chloride is a salt. So sodium is +1, chloride is -1. So the F here is 1. Okay? It's 1. Now, class, si factor naan siya naan siya unit. Okay? Naan siya unit. The unit for this is equivalent per mole. Okay? Kapag the factor nagigamit is for equivalent weight, the unit is equivalent per mole. Again, equivalent per mole. So pag i-divide nato na makancel si mole, so this is 58 divided by 1, so automatic the equivalent weight is 58, and take note sa nabili na unit, grams per equivalent. Okay? Grams per equivalent. Muna na siya ang answer for the equivalent weight. Now, how about the milli-equivalent weight? Sodium chloride gihapon ha. So this one is molecular weight divided by F times 1,000. So dali na lang ang pag-compute sa milli-equivalent weight because we have the molecular weight already. It's 58 grams per mole. I'm talking about sodium chloride gihapon ha. Divided by the F. The F is still 1. Pero class, ang unit ni F kapag pag you are computing for the milli-equivalent weight, the unit here is milli-equivalent per mole. Okay? Ano siya iyahang unit if you are computing for the milli-equivalent. And do not forget that times 1,000. Okay? So makancel ang mole. Ang maiwan na unit is grams per milli-equivalent. Again, ang maiwan is 58 grams divided by 1,000. And then ang naiwan na unit sa baba is milli-equivalent. Therefore, the milli-equivalent weight is, where is my calculator? Please compute. I'm looking for my calculator. Wala akong calculator. Let me use my cell phone na lang. 58 divided by 1,000. It's 1,000, ha? So the milli-equivalent weight here is 0.058. Take note of the unit. It's grams per milli-equivalent. Okay? That's how you compute for both the equivalent weight and the milli-equivalent weight. Questions? Wala. Let's have another one. Para ma-practice ninyo pa exam na ba ninyo next week. Okay? Sige. How about you compute for the equivalent and the milli-equivalent weight of sulfuric acid. This is sulfuric acid. So, kamusta before ako? You try solving sa inyong any sheet of paper there, the equivalent weight and the milli-equivalent weight of sulfuric acid, H2SO4. I'll wait for your answers. Yeah, solve na to sa screen. Ang i-whole number ang atomic weights sa kada element. So for example, sa hydrogen, you just use 1. For sulfur, ilang, ano sa sulfur? 32? I'm not sure with the sulfur. I-round off siya to the whole number. Ang atomic weights nila. So, saan eh? 49 grams per equivalent and 0.049 grams per milli-equivalent. Let's see if we have the same answer. Sulfuric acid. Let's first compute for the molecular weight para diretso-diretso ta. So HSO. You have 2 hydrogen, 1 sulfur, and 4 na oxygen. So this is 1. The atomic weight of hydrogen is 1. And then for sulfur, am I right? It's 32. Let's see. I don't have periodic table here. At 32, I'm right. Okay. Sige. This is 32. And then this one is 16. So, I calculate 16 times 4. This one is 64. So, this one, 4 plus 4, 8, 98. Okay. It's 98 grams per mole. Okay? That is for the sulfuric acid. Now, let's compute for the equivalent weight first. Molecular weight divided by the F. The molecular weight na na-compute nato is 98 grams per mole. And then the F plus, take note that this is an acid, sulfuric acid. So di ba sa acid, you are going to count the number of hydrogen. So pila ka buok ang hydrogen din ha? It's 2. Therefore, the F here is also 2. So this is 2 equivalent per mole. Makancel ang mole. So 98 divided by 2 is 49. Okay? 49 grams per equivalent. So you are correct with the 49 grams per equivalent. And for the milli-equivalent weight, it's molecular weight divided by F times 1,000. Okay? So, molecular weight again is 98 grams per mole. And then, the F again here is 2, but this time since we are computing for the milli-equivalent weight, then this is milli-equivalent per mole. And do not forget the 1,000 times 1,000. So this is, makancel ang moles, 98 grams divided by 2 times 1,000. It's 2,000 milli-equivalent. Ay, hindi ko siya sulat. Why? Nyari. Ngani. Wait lang ha. Muagi akong pen. Pinihita po. Pinihita po sa iya. Joke lang, class. Muagi akong pen. Bakit? Wala, gihapon siya. Why? Wait lang ha. Anyway, ako na lang siyang i-text. Okay. Nagigilay siya. Nangyari sa kanya. Anyway, 98 divided by 2,000. After this, I'll just fix my, 98 divided by 2,000. The answer here, let me see if mo gana ang text.
0.049, ma'am.
Okay, 0.049. Take note of the unit, grams per MEQ. Capital E na ha, capital E ang MEQ. Actually, capital E po dapat ng equivalent weight. Okay? Let me fix my, first, my pen. I don't know what happened. Hindi na siya musulat.